it together, and it kind of took away the Druids' power a little bit because they were doing more Roman-esque celebrations. And then lovely Christianity spread, which we know how that went.
It was bloody.
They did not want them worshiping old gods at all. That wasn't a thing. They only wanted their God. There was only one God. Mm-hmm. They believed that, obviously we all know this, and they were like, we need to get rid of all these ancient pagan rituals. We have to demonize them. We cannot let these people think that it's okay to do this. So Pope Gregory the Third moved Saints' Day, All Saints' Day. It used to be in May. So they decided, well, to get these people to follow us instead, we'll take over their festivals and their traditions. So what they did is move their All Saints' Day of May 13th to November 1st to replace Samhain traditions. They figured, oh, it's kind of like we're like giving a celebration of the dead, but it's for the saints. And their whole strategy was to demonize the fire festival and told them the devil and evil spirits would come and curse the land if they did their old practices. This plan didn't work very well for them at first because All Saints' Day did not live up to the excitement of Samhain. Like Samhain, it's a cat's meow.
Can she get up?
Daisy. No, she can't get up there.
You want me to open the door?
Yeah, she's fine. She'll be fine.
The meowing makes it more Halloween. Yes. It makes it more authentic with a cat yowling in the background.
So like I said, they were like, okay, this isn't working because Samhain was a party. All Saints' Day isn't doing it for them. They're like, woo, where's the fire? Where's me dancing in my skins? Where are we burning things? I want to do all that. And they weren't doing it. So the church decided to make November 2nd All Souls' Day, a holiday to honor the dead. And it took on some of the traditions, Samhain, so the Celts could feel like they weren't getting rid of something. They were just moving it a day over, and they still could have their bonfires and do those things and commemorate their dead, not just saints.
You know what's funny? I knew they did that with Christmas, but I didn't know they did that with Halloween too.
Easter. They did it with Easter.
It was Ostara.
Yep. And then they did it with Samhain, and they did it with
Yule.
So
yes, because little did people know that Jesus' birth did not happen in the winter; it happened in the springtime.
Right. And
according to
everything to do, and like if you study paganism and you study, like I went to Catholic school and we had to learn about all religions. Of course, we didn't learn about paganism, but we learned about a lot of different religions, and it caused me to really want to learn about them. So as I got older, I wanted to read. And when you find out that Christianity, all the traditions are based on paganism, it makes you really think about really think about things. Is it really bad? I don't know. Yeah. I don't think it is. But anyway,
on your view.
So they changed that. So they portrayed their old gods as evil and associated with the devil, and they started talking about witches, and we know how that all went for people. Not good.
Yes.
With time, because they demonized it, because they basically, if you celebrated it, you were a witch, and if you were a witch, what happened to you? You got killed. People stopped worshiping the old gods because they're like, okay, I don't want to die, so I'll just start doing our stuff on the 2nd, and we'll just have our things and do our things then because we want to live. That's usually people's main goal, is to survive. So they're going to make their stuff fit into what the church wants. So that the old god, they kind of slipped away. They still would dress up. They still would honor the dead by leaving food out. They still would have their bonfires and celebrate harvest, but they didn't talk about the old gods. The Druids had no power anymore, basically, because they stripped the power from the Druids because they told them that was all evil. So the night before All Saints' Day became All Hallows' Eve, or Holy Night, which All Hallows' Eve has turned into Halloween. That's where we get Halloween from.
Nice. I love Halloween.
I know, me too. So, it still was believed that the souls would walk the earth at that time and to appease them with gifts of food and drink so they wouldn't enter their homes. So people would put food and drink outside their house.
Hence the little kids walking by, ooh, there's free food.
Yeah. They set treats on their doorsteps and they'd light candles for the spirits to find their way back to the other world. People would wear costumes of the dead, and they would go, it would make the spirits be afraid, so they wouldn't attack them. But because they wore the dead's clothing, they were able to eat the food off the porches. So kind of trick-or-treaty, right?
Yeah.
But they were going around. So it's developing over the years from the festival leaving food for spirits to people coming to your home and eating your food on your doorstep. And now poor people started to come and beg for food because they're like, oh, they're leaving all this food out and I'm starving to death. I'm going to go around and get this food.
For sure.
So the church was really excited because they just developed this thing where if a beggar came to your door asking for food, you'd give them a thing called a soul cake. And a soul cake was a round cake made of allspice, nutmeg, and raisins, and I can't read my handwriting.
You had me until you said raisins.
Currants. It had currants on top. What? Cinnamon. Oh, it's made of allspice, nutmeg, cinnamon, and ginger with raisins or currants on top, and they would put a cross on the top of it. So the church had control over this, making it part of their Jesus and their traditions. So a beggar would come to the house and they'd be given a soul cake. In return of that, they had to promise to pray for their loved ones. Well, the church just thinks this is wonderful. Oh, we have praying, we have Jesus, we have crosses, we have feeding the poor. This is what we want. Even though they're horribly corrupt. Mm-hmm. They're corrupt, but the people are doing good things because that's usually how that works. So because this is happening and people are going to door and they started to wear costumes again, the poor started dressing up. People started dressing up and they would disguise, and they go souling. It was called a souling because they're going for soul cakes. But then they started dressing up. People started dressing up and their whole point was to disguise themselves so people didn't know who they were. So when they did that, they could do not so nice things. So they don't catch them. They called that mummying or guising. And which would translate eventually to trick-or-treating because they would come and do a trick or you give me food. I'll do something to you if you don't give
Mummers.
me food. Yeah.
There's a Lorena McKennitt song called The Mummers Dance.
Oh, yeah?
Well,
it's based off that, yeah. So then they were carving up. So there's an old Irish, jack-o'-lanterns. Okay, where did they come from? So that was how trick-or-treating started to come into play. And we'll see how in America, how I'll go and further and time goes on, how it translated into our own history here in America. But at that time, that's where trick-or-treating started from.
In Europe.
In Europe.
England.
England. Where they were basically, it started, the church tried to drive it their direction, but it kept getting brought back to more of a pagan-esque way. Because you can't drive all those old gods out all the way, no matter what you do. Mm-mm. So then we come with jack-o'-lanterns, and there's an old Irish story. I'm going to read it to you because I didn't want to write it all down, and I have it on my phone here. So there's this story from Ireland called Stingy Jack. And according to the story, Stingy Jack invited the devil to have a drink with him. True to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink, so he convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Once the devil did so, Jack decided to keep the money and put it into his pocket next to his silver cross, which prevented the devil from changing back to his original form. So he tricked the devil to turn himself into money to pay for the drinks, and then he put the money in his pocket with a cross, so the devil was stuck there. Jack eventually freed the devil under the condition that he would not bother Jack for 1 year, and that, should Jack die, he would not claim his soul. Next year, Jack again tricked the devil into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. I don't know why the devil's hopping around hanging out with Jack.
I know, Jack is a bad influence on the devil. I know, that's right? Pretty bad.
While he was up in the tree, Jack was like, I'm going to send the cross in the tree and the tree's bark, and the devil could not come down until the devil promised Jack not to bother him for 10 more years. Soon after, Jack died, as the legend goes, and God wouldn't allow him into heaven because he was kind of an ass on earth.
Yeah.
Like, you were even a jerk to the devil. Like, that, what does that say? And the devil, upset at the trick Jack played at him, and said he would never claim his soul. He held up the end and said, well, you can't come to hell either, dude. So he threw a burning piece of coal from hell at Jack. And Jack put the coal into a carved turnip and has been roaming the earth ever since. The Irish began to refer to this ghost as Jack of the Lantern, which moved on to jack-o'-lantern.
I did know about the turnip thing. Like, jack-o'-lanterns were originally turnips.
Yes. And when it came to the United States, we had lots of pumpkins here, and it was easier to carve. So that's basically
way easier.
Yeah,
a turnip is solid.
So hard.
Yeah, but I mean turnips can get huge,
and they like even to peel a turnip is a pain in the butt.
Yes,
it's horrible.
Like, can you imagine cutting it out and hollowing it out on the inside? That's insanity right there. Just use a gourd because it's already hollow. Just pull out the guts and you're good.
Exactly. So children, because of that story, were on All Hallows Eve would carve turnips in England. In Europe area, they would carve the turnips and put them with a candle inside to scare away the spirits.
Imagine how bad a turnip with a hot coal in it would smell after a little while. I do love turnips, but they have their own kind of smell. Mm-hmm. Especially like one with getting slowly cooked with a hot coal inside of it. Stinky.
Yeah. And I'll put a picture of what they look like. They're not as cool as a pumpkin when you carve them.
Oh, no, never. Never.
And, like, pumpkins are bigger, so you could actually carve more things. And we've really taken the whole jack-o'-lantern thing. People are doing art with it now. Like, it's...
Because it's amazing and fun. Even though it's, like, temporary, because it's gonna rot. But it's still fun.
So let's go ahead in time to when, we came to America and colonized it so lovingly.
Those Puritans.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Puritans a bit. So, Halloween celebrations in the colonized New England was limited because of the Puritan beliefs. The Puritans...
They knew how to have fun!
They like to have a party.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that was fun, you couldn't do. So, but
that color is too bright. Take it off. Wear gray. Or black. That's it. And white. A little bit of white.
So, actually in the southern part of the colonies... They're more common to still celebrate that because the Puritans weren't down there. Mm-hmm. It was more Irish people that were down in the
and you can't keep an Irishman down when it comes to a party.
No,
the Irish, we know how to party. Let me tell you.
Yes, our people know how to party.
We do.
Puritans refused to observe any holidays that might be associated with pagan beliefs, and since Christianity basically took over all fun holidays of the pagans, which included Christmas and Easter, they couldn't do those either. So Puritans didn't do Christmas because it was connected to paganism, but it's because Christianity took it over.
Right.
So, like, they did it to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. In the 1800s, harvest festivals started to incorporate more Halloween elements. Divination, because remember we talked about the Winchester House way back when, and how during the Civil War time, divination and spiritualism was really big because people want to connect to their dead loved ones. So this is when divination starts coming back, and so this is where bobbing from apples comes from. Okay.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah. Its existence colonial era. It was if you put apples in water in a big barrel. And the first person to get the apple out would be the next to marry.
It's always the next to marry. Always. Every time. And back then, anytime you did anything, it was like, oh, you're going to be the next one to marry. There
was another thing. It progressed to where women at the party would put a mark in an apple, and a gentleman would bob for the apple whenever the apple they got out. They would be their future spouse.
That sounds terrible.
Terrible. Because God, can you imagine? I know mine wouldn't be the one I wanted.
No, never.
Women also, Halloween became a big night to find out who your husband was going to be for women during this time. It was a big deal. So another thing with apples is they would peel the apple into a long ribbon and they'd throw it over their shoulder. Mm-hmm. And if it would land in the initial of their future husband.
Mm-hmm. I heard about that.
I'm going to try that and see if our shows
that was in something. What was that in? Where they carved the apple peel.
I don't know.
I don't remember either. Something I read.
There was another thing where they'd stand in front of a mirror with a candle at midnight on Halloween, and their future husband's face would appear over their shoulder. I'm sorry.
That's terrifying.
I don't want to do that.
No, I don't want some discombobulated, some disembodied head floating over my arm. That's like you see that man in real life and you run away screaming.
If they had two suitors, they would carve their initial in each of two hazelnuts. And they would throw the hazelnuts on Halloween into a fire. And the one that split open was not the one they wanted. And the one that burned up, this is the one that would be their husband. Because they were considered stable. Because they were able to burn perfectly. That sounds dumb. So ridiculous, all these are. An Irish tradition on Halloween was a cook would put a ring in their mashed potatoes on Halloween. And whoever found that would find true love. So whoever got the mashed potato.
Broke a tooth.
Yeah, I would have choked to death and I would not have found anyone.
I would have broke my teeth, is what I would have done. And then I would have choked to death on my teeth.
I ate my tooth once when I was a kid when I fell out. I ate a hot dog and the tooth went in the hot dog and I ate it.
Oh my god, that's awful. You had to crap out your tooth. You have to